Welcome to Speaking of Love, the podcast, with your host, LaToya. This podcast was created as a platform for spreading love. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is LaToya, and welcome to Speaking of Love. Speaking of Love, the podcast is my baby. This podcast is very sacred to me. I am here today to talk to you all about my favorite word in the English dictionary, which is love. I have a beautiful guest here today, but before I introduce her, I'd like to give you all a little history about my podcast. Speaking of Love was created in honor of my father, Herman McAlpin Jr., and I am going to put his picture here at the very top of our broadcast here. My father committed suicide on March 2nd of 2020, and my father was a radio TV broadcast engineer here in the city of Detroit for many years, and he had a radio show many years ago called Speaking of Sports. So I adopted the name Speaking of Love for my podcast in honor and in memory of my father, who's no longer with us. So today I have a phenomenal guest here. Her name is Deborah Rankin. Deborah is a beautiful person. She has agreed to be here today to talk to us all. She is a person who helps people build busy, easy lives, sustainable habits that drain your stress, and she prevents burnout. She can help you increase your energy, help you increase your joy. She's also a registered dietitian and an experienced health guide. Please help me welcome Miss Deborah Rankin. Welcome, Deborah.
Thank you, LaToya. I'm so glad to be here today, and I'm so touched by your mission and your dedication to honoring your father. Really speaks to me. So
thank you so much, Deborah. Thank you. This is a very important part of my life, and I really enjoy doing this because I get to speak to people, wonderful people like you from all around the world in honor of my father.
He is so proud of you.
Thank you, Deborah. Where are you tuning in from today?
I live in Denver, Colorado.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so awesome, Deborah. So talk to me, Deborah Rankin. Tell me about your life, your early years as a young girl, your aspirations. Talk to me about who Deborah was as a young girl.
Thank you. I grew up in small towns, primarily in Indiana, a few stints in Kentucky and Tennessee, and we had to make our own fun because there wasn't a lot to do. So my friends and I roamed the countryside, riding bicycles, swimming in gravel pits where the water was full of slime and muck, walking on frozen creeks and sometimes falling through the ice, but thankfully never being harmed. So I had a lot of freedom and a lot of activity. And so that was a great life. When I was a kid, I always wanted to be either a scientist or a writer when I grew up. And an unfortunate experience in 6th grade moved me away from the writing to science. And LaToya, I think I've heard you say that you were once a school teacher.
I was a school administrator for over 20 years.
Okay, great. So you'll probably be a little bit appalled by this story. So my good friend Nancy and I read a children's book called Harriet the Spy. And we were so in love with Harriet and we wanted to be just like her. So we got spy notebooks and we went around watching people and writing things down about them. And that included some of our classmates. Well, when our teacher found out about it, one day when we were out at recess, he went through our desks and he pulled our spy notebooks out. And when we came back from recess, he read them out loud to the class. Sadly, we
oh my goodness,
things that were, they were tacky. They were, how kids can be. They were tacky. They were very painful for our classmates to hear and very embarrassing for us to be have it read that way. So at that point, like the writing went bye-bye, and so I went more towards science. And so I majored in nutrition and dietetics, which is a very science-heavy curriculum in college.
Wow. That is such a moving story, because as individuals and as adults, we have to be very careful how we treat children when they're at that impressionable age, because the things that we say to them can impact them for the rest of their lives, as it did you. But fortunately, you were able to turn it into something positive and create a better life for yourself.
Yes, but even so, I still think with horror, like for some of my classmates, do those tacky statements still somehow hurt them, cause them pain? Could be. But anyway, it is what it is. But I'm glad, I think now teachers and school administrators seem to be more sensitive to their students and more aware of the need to treat them with respect and honor, even if they are doing immature, childish thing.
Yes, treat them with respect and honor, but most of all, treat them with love. What I learned about working in the school all those years is that a lot of children come from homes where there wasn't a lot of love. So I wanted my office to be a safe haven for all of the students, and that was a place where they could come and get love from me, no matter what they were going through in their day. If they were there for discipline problems or if they were just there for a stomach ache, love was available for all, because most times when you have children who are acting out in school and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, there's a discipline issue. A lot of times that comes from a lack of love somewhere in their lives. The parents are busy working. They don't have time to pay attention to them. So I really enjoyed that.
I'm sure you were great at it. And I will say, my friend and I were sent to the principal's office by the teacher. And thankfully, the principal did act with love and just said, well, learn from this. Let me call your parents. We'll discuss it. So the love was extended from the principal, thankfully.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes, if you can get a child to fall in love with you, you can get them to grasp any concept that you put before them. Yeah. There's a book about that called Teaching with Love and Logic. So anyway, I don't want to go off into that too much. But speaking of education, tell me about your educational background and what inspired you to achieve an RD with the Master of Science degree in biomedical sciences. What inspired you to pursue that?
Well, from a young age, I always liked medicine. I thought hospitals were exciting, which was weird. So I liked medicine, but I knew I didn't want to be a doctor because I knew I didn't want to give that much of my life to one thing. I always knew there were many things I was interested in. And I didn't want to be a nurse because I didn't want to have to deal with blood and catheters and body fluids. So dietetics was in the medical field, but it was related to food, and I'd always loved food. So it was kind of a process of an elimination.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is so wonderful, Deborah. Now, was it difficult for you, or did you find that it came easy for you to pursue those dreams?
I think it was hard because I'd been this, do I want to write? Do I want to do science? So I had a very artistic, what would that be, a left side of my brain, I think. And so to go strictly in the science was really an effort at first. I had to kind of train my mind to think in more analytical ways. So it was a rigorous curriculum and it was tough, but I have always enjoyed the work because nutrition and health coaching is taking science and then translating it into ways that are helpful and meaningful for people. So I really like the personal contact and interaction with many different types of people.
Okay, wonderful, Deborah. Now, describe for me the types of services that you provide.
Well, my work as a freelance coach and author is quite new. I just retired from a full-time job this time last year. So I'm really in the planning stages of that. My first step was to publish a book, De-Stress Your Life, Turn Chaos into Calm. Have a little copy of it there. And I'm trying to decide what will be most helpful. So I may work and do some group coaching efforts or some individual coaching efforts. I have a few individual coaching clients right now. So as far as my future direction, I'm frankly still looking to discern that.
Okay, so Deborah, in all of your works, talk to me about the projects that you have worked on that you're the most proud of.
Well, I think the book is one of them. It was a big deal to write it and to publish it, and I really poured my heart into it. And the reason why I wrote the book is that I had so many friends and family members and clients who were trying so hard to reform their habits and their lifestyle, but they would go on really strict, difficult diets or very harsh workout routines, and it was just hard for them. And that is not what I believe. I believe that healthy habits and a healthy lifestyle is not a punishment or a torture you have to subject yourself to, but it's the easiest way to live. It gives you more energy in a pleasant way. It helps you feel calm and relaxed. Your moods are better, so you enjoy life more. So I really wanted to get across the idea that this is an easy, pleasant way to live. It does not require you to punish yourself or deprive yourself.
Yes.
So that was my motivation.
That's beautiful because I'm in my 40s. I'm 45 years old now. But Deborah, let me just tell you, when I was in my 20s and my 30s, I spent so much time, energy, and money yo-yo dieting, going on this fad diet, going on that fad diet, depriving myself. I even went on a liquid diet one time where all I could consume was cayenne pepper, honey, lemon, and water. That was
my goodness. Wow. Wow.
I did that for like 3 days and then I had to have food. But, you know, you're absolutely correct. Our weight loss journey should not be a journey of struggle. It should be enjoyed throughout the whole process, because when you go into it and you work hard, the rewards will come, but it shouldn't come at a price where you feel like you're in a lot of pain or deprived.
Or you can't enjoy life. And I admire someone like you who can go on these strict diets, LaToya. Frankly, I have never dieted, which is weird. But in working with clients, it's more the people that have that courage and that strength and that power to go on those strict programs who have the hardest time, because you do yo-yo, because it just doesn't work long term. And in my book, I have like 2 different diagrams about reasons why a diet doesn't work. And there are physical reasons and there are emotional reasons, but just starting with the physical, your body our brains resist massive changes, big changes, because the brain's purpose is to help keep us alive and keep things on a steady state. So when we try something that's very hard, very massive, what I call the big step syndrome, we can do it for a while, but ultimately internal resistance or actual physical resistance kicks in. So the best way to achieve health and strength and joy is to make small changes, small steps of change that fit seamlessly in your schedule, that you can continue long term. And although they are very small, when they continue for days, for weeks, for months, they end up transforming your life. So that's what I want to help people understand, to be healthy, but to do it in a kind, loving way to yourself. And that's why I was so happy to be a guest on your podcast, because a theme of love is very important, not only to love other people, but to love ourselves and care for ourselves in kind, supportive ways.
And Deborah, I'm glad that you're here today because it's the beginning of a brand new year. And so many people have set intentions to lose weight, to get healthy. And your message is going to resonate with these individuals. A lot of people are headed towards being very strict. And I know I'm not going to enjoy the process, but the reward will be great. You know, these are the things that they're telling themselves. But you have a different approach to that.
Exactly. And it's an approach that works better long term and will succeed.
Yeah.
Even when I think about some of the changes I've made, which all kind of stemmed from a real crash and burn experience I went through about 6 years ago, I've made some changes in my life that I never thought were possible. We all have certain things we just say, well, that's just the way I am. That's just how I do it. But I've seen firsthand the power of small changes and changing my behaviors in ways that even I didn't expect. So for anyone who's out there, I just say kudos to you for having those intentions. Kudos for you for your courage, but really think about what's going to work for you long term.
For the long term.
Try the diet this time last year and the year before that and the year before that, or you started going to the gym or whatever, running 5 miles a day and you hate it. If it didn't work before, kind of accept that and say, okay, I'll try a different approach. And I think my book will give you some practical ways to do that.
Deborah, talk to us about your book again. Hold it up and let us know where we can buy a copy of it.
You can buy it on Amazon. The title is De-Stress Your Life, Turn Chaos into Calm. Title's a little bit long. Frankly, the best way to find it is just go to Amazon and in the search bar, type my name.
Okay.
Deborah Rankin, DeborahRankin. It'll come up.
Okay. Now, Deborah, talk to me about your free quiz. You have a quiz on your website that you would like for individuals to learn about. Tell us about your quiz.
So this is a quiz that is a quiz to identify areas of your life that might be showing stress or indicating you're at risk for burnout. So if you go to my website, deborahrankinrd.com/view-burnout-quiz and maybe
I put it in the comments here. I've already added it in the comments too for our
this list. So look at that. And some of these things, I mean, obviously we all do some of the things on this list because they're common to human existence. But if you can find 6 or 7 items on this list that describe the way you are living right now, you're probably at risk at burnout. And now is the time to start taking care of yourself in a better way.
Yes, for 2021, for new beginnings.
Yes.
Yes. Deborah, I'm going to take the quiz and see exactly where I stand.
Thank you, Latoya. I appreciate it. Please do.
Deborah, I want to say this too. My favorite aunt, her name was Deborah, rest her soul. She passed away in 2006.
Okay.
But her name was spelled exactly the way you spell your name, Deborah. And in my earlier communication with you, you gave me a history lesson about the name Deborah as it relates to the Bible. Can you tell our viewers about that?
Absolutely. It's not a common name. It was a little bit common in my era and possibly the era of your aunt because I'm a few years older than you. But you rarely find little kids today named Deborah. But Deborah in the 50s, there were a couple of movie stars named Deborah or Debbie, so it was popular then. But in the Bible, Deborah was a leader of the people of Israel. She was, first of all, a judge. So people came to her to ask for help with decisions. And then at some time, there were some enemies that were threatening the people of Israel. And I hate to say this, but some of the men leaders were afraid to go into battle. So Deborah basically said, okay, I'll do it. Follow me. And she led the people into battle and they were victorious. So, it's kind of a nice legacy. It's kind of a nice legacy.
Wow, that's beautiful. I love it. I love the history behind that. And I have to tell my cousin, who happens to be Deborah's daughter, what you
Okay.
have shared with us about the name. We called my aunt. She went by Deb, like
Yeah.
DB. Yeah.
I
Very
do a lot. Yeah. That's what
yeah.
people tell me in conversation is just when I write it out, I always write out Deborah. So that's what I use on my website and on my book. Yeah.
So, Deborah, going back to our health and nutrition, what is the biggest lesson that you've learned, or the most powerful lesson that you've learned as a registered dietitian?
You know, I think the main thing is that food is not the enemy. Food is a source of nourishment, of strength, of joy and pleasure in life. So, the extent to which we can have a healthy relationship with food is very important to us. I enjoy food. I love to cook. And yes, most of the time I eat healthy foods, vegetables, fruits, seeds, and nuts. But you know what? If there's a traditional holiday recipe that I've cooked for years and that all my family love, we're going to have it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm a registered dietitian and I know how to modify recipes, you will never see an article from me saying how to make your Christmas cookies sugar-free or 10 ways to make low-fat mashed potatoes. No, I don't eat those foods every day, but if I eat them on Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day or New Year's Day, you know, it is what it is. And to any of your listeners who maybe are starting 2021 with a little guilt, like you little overdid it on this day or that day, okay, you probably did. Fine. But that was the past, now's the present. So don't worry. Just accept where you are and move forward.
Okay. So food is not the enemy. So why do you think food is regarded as such an enemy? Like, why do you feel that it's regarded that way? Is it because people abuse food, or I don't know?
That's a really good question. You know, I think in American culture, we've disrespected food and we've taken some of the connecting with people aspects, part of it. If you go to Europe, you know, people eat, many people in Europe, many cultures in Europe, the diet is higher in fat. There's the French paradox where, you know, French women eat butter and chocolate and whatever, drink wine, but they don't suffer from obesity. I think in America, I think we've gotten in the habit of living such a fast-paced lifestyle that we don't take the time to enjoy food and how it nurtures us. And then we do overeat because we're not aware of what we're eating. We're not present when we eat. So I think anything we can do to just say food is positive, it nourishes me, it gives me strength, I'll enjoy it, but I'll take my time to enjoy it, then we'll probably eat less. We'll have less tendency to overeat.
Okay. Deborah, what is your personal creed in life? Do you have a motto that you live by? Words of wisdom?
I don't know that it's anything really flashy, but I think my approach is to live the day, live each day the way I want to live, and be present in the day, and then have faith that the future will work out. So just be faithful in each day to what I want to be, who I want to be. Is that a motto?
Yeah, I like that. Yes, I like that. And staying present in the moment and not looking too far ahead, because that can cause stress and burnout too. When you're so focused on, okay, what's going to happen next week? Where am I going to be next month? Just kind of live for right now in the moment.
Yeah, but then be present in the moment and do the things you want to do. You know, if you want to move more and get more exercise, but you don't have time to go for a 5-mile run, go for a 10-minute walk. Go for a 20-minute walk. If you're working in your home office, get up and walk around the house and move. I even have a little office weightlifting routine. I keep some little hand weights in my office, and I have a video on a 5-minute weightlifting routine. But those little things really do make a difference. So that's part of honoring the day too. Even though today I can't do everything I want to do, I can do one thing or some things I want to do.
Oh, that's wonderful. So what do you do every day, Deborah, to get your day started on the right track? Like when you wake up in the morning, is there something special that you do?
Absolutely. I have a very definite morning routine. I started this about 5 or 6 years ago. I think I mentioned I kind of crashed and burned. It was like I had a series of big losses and didn't have the reserves to make it through because I hadn't taken care of myself. So I crashed and burned. So I have this morning routine. Number one, first thing, when I get up, I drink 8 ounces of cold water. I would say that's probably been the most transformative thing I've done in the last 5 years. Seriously.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I put a certain mug out on the kitchen counter. So it's the first thing I see when I come out of my bedroom. It's there. I drink 8 ounces of cold water. Then I have breakfast, and I do eat breakfast every day. I think there's some very sound reasons why it's good for us to eat breakfast. I go over those in my book. Then I have a meditation time, prayer time, and then I journal. I write in my journal every day. So those things help me start the day really clear on who I am and who I want to be that day and keep my stress level down.
Oh, that's wonderful. Deborah, I look at you and you have such a decorated career. You have written a book. You have achieved your RD. How do you define success?
I think I define success as a process of becoming who I want to be and who God created me to be.
I love that.
But we all have lives that go through different stages. And so it's a process. And I'm not good at looking out in the future and saying, what do I want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now? I don't know. But I know what I need to do today to be aligned with who I want to be next week. So it's just accept the process and be faithful to that process.
Oh, that's beautiful. You know, Deborah, this show is all about love, and I created this podcast in honor of my father, with whom I loved very much. And he's no longer here with us, but we are moving forward in the honor of love anyway. And the $1 million question that I ask all of my guests who appear before me on Speaking of Love, the podcast, is how do you define love?
You have such good interview questions, LaToya. You really do. And I was so touched when I came across your podcast and your mission. And as we speak, as we are interviewing, this is the 7-year anniversary of the day my father died. Oh. And when you asked me to pick a day to interview, I don't know that my conscious mind knew it was the anniversary. I'm thinking though my subconscious mind did, and that's why I picked this day. So first of all, I'm just so touched by your positive, loving way of dealing with what I know had to be a painful loss and tragedy. So I'm so honored for that. And I'm so glad to be here today talking to you and honoring my father, who was a loving man. But what is love? I think love to me is being exactly who I am and having people who accept me and care for me despite my flaws and issues, weaknesses, mistakes. And then conversely, for me, it's the people in my life that even though I see them for who they are and know they aren't perfect, I honor them and care for them and do everything I can to draw out the best in them and to call out the best in them.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is so beautiful, Deborah. I love asking that question because there's no right or wrong answer, and everyone's definition of love is different, but they're all very intriguing, and you can learn something about love from every person's perspective. So I truly, truly admire you and your heart. You have a really big heart, and to dedicate your life to helping others live healthy in a more healthy way, to become who you have become. I am so amazed by you. And that teacher, the teacher that we talked about earlier, your teacher set the platform, indirectly for you to be who you are today. So in a way, that teacher should be
Exactly. Worked out. I still wrote a book. Even though I spent years in science and medicine, I still wrote a book. So
yes,
it's a beautiful thing. As long as we're true to ourselves, we'll eventually get to where we want to be, even though it might take time. That's okay.
Yes, I remember when I was in 7th grade, I grew up in Detroit, and I used to go to a middle school called Columbus Middle School. And there was a young man in my class. His name was Claxton King. And Claxton was kind of like the class clown, and he didn't always do the right thing. And I remember the teacher made a comment to him one day, and she kind of said that he was dumb or he wasn't going to be anything in life. And I'm here to tell you, he's 45 years old now, and he has his own barber shop here in the city of Detroit. He's an entrepreneur. People love him. His work is amazing. And I spoke with him one day and I said, I wonder what would that teacher think about the success that you have made with your life now. I just wonder how would she feel knowing that you turned around and you made a great life for yourself. So as
good for him. Way to go, Claxton. I think that's awesome. And I'm sure we all have people that have hurt us along the way and not appreciated us along the way, but keep moving forward, keep going.
Yes, and that's the takeaway lesson in all of it is don't stay stuck in what someone has told you. You can actually use that as motivation to prove them wrong, and that's what you have done. That's what Claxton has done, and it's what so many other people in our world have done today. I'm just so honored to be here with you today.
Well, thank you. It's great for me to talk with you too. It really is.
So, Deborah, is there a person in your life, either past or present, who has inspired you to be where you are right now in your life?
Absolutely. And of course, today I will talk about my father who passed away from cancer 7 years ago. Dad was quiet, shy, humble, but he was the wind beneath my wings. And I think his quiet assurance was that he always somehow made me feel like I could do anything I wanted to do. He had that faith in me in a very quiet way. So I owe a lot of my strength. I take a lot of my courage from him. And the best thing about him, the coolest thing about him was when he passed, he was 87 years old, almost 88. And although he had never been the star person or the flashy person, it was really cool to see that as he grew older, people still wanted to be with him. People still wanted to spend time with him because he was interested in them. He always wanted to know what was going on with them. He was fun. He was adventurous. And, a lot of us, as we think about aging, we kind of had this fear like, what if I'm going to be old and no one wants to be with me? And he was a real inspiration to say, hey, if you're a positive, kind, encouraging person, people will still want to be with you. And actually, my sisters and I, my brother, like we all wanted to be the one whose house he came to visit, or for holidays. Like we actually kind of competed a little bit about that, and again, you hear about the old people that no one wants. Well, everyone wanted Dad, and that was just a really cool thing to see.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is wonderful. I bet your dad is just looking down on you with pride right now.
Thank you. I hope so. I hope I'm happy with him. Yeah.
Deborah, it has been a pleasure speaking with you today. If any of my audience members would like to reach out to Deborah, her website is deborahkindrd.com. And it's spelled...
Just a second. Deborah Rankin. Yes. Deborah Rankin RD.com. Yes.
Okay, so that's DEBORAH, Deborah, and the last name is Rankin, RANKINRD.com.
Right, that's it.
And on her website, she has a quiz that you can take and it will determine how if you are headed for burnout or not.
Absolutely. I hope that helps everyone step back and just take a look and consider where you are today.
Yes. I encourage everyone to go and take the quiz. I'm actually going to take it today. And for those of you who are viewing live on YouTube or Facebook, I have the link here in the comment section for the quiz. And I'm really interested to find out about the Burnout Quiz. Now, Deborah, have you taken the quiz?
Yes, I have. And yeah, sometimes in my life, I've done every single one of the things on that list they described to me. So, and yeah, you can live that way for a while, but if you live that way for a long time, you'll run out of steam and you'll probably crash and burn like I did 5 or 6 years ago. So don't let that happen. Life's too short. You want to have energy, enjoy what you do, feel calm and peaceful. So yeah, make a different choice.
Now, Deborah, the takeaway lesson from all of that is even though you crashed and burned, you're here today, you're talking about it, and you rose above it. So that's important.
Absolutely. And that's true for every single person listening, no matter where you are, what your challenges are. You can make it through. You can survive. You will survive. Just start with one little thing at a time. Basically, what happened to me is that about the time my father died, I lost my job. I got sick. I stayed unemployed for 2 years. I had to sell my house and move into a garage apartment. I mean, it was not fun. Yeah, I can't say that I enjoyed any of it. But looking back, it was a wonderful lesson to see that I can keep going. And for everyone listening, you can too. So don't give up.
Yes, please don't give up. You are important and you matter. Everyone needs to know that. Deborah, you have created such a wonderful life for yourself. You have all of these goals that you have achieved. You are such an inspiration to so many people. I have one more last question for you before we wrap up. And that question is, when the pages of your life are reviewed, what do you most want to be remembered for?
Wow. I have a funny answer for that. Maybe I can come up with a more profound one, but I read this in a cookbook somewhere. We're back talking to food and your classic favorite holiday or family recipes. One cookbook author said, you want to have it so that after you're dead and gone, when your loved ones lie down in their beds on Thanksgiving night or Christmas night or New Year's Eve, they say, it just wasn't the same. Grandma's this or Aunt Deborah's that or Sister Latoya's this. You want them to miss whatever you made. So I want people to remember my pecan pie and my Christmas cookies and my homemade bread and my seafood gumbo. So that's the kind of frivolous answer. I think a more profound answer.
I love it.
Yeah. So yeah, nail.
I love it.
whatever it is, nail your niche and stick with it, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I totally agree.
I think in a deeper sense, I just want people to remember that I was there for them and they could count on me.
That's so important. That is so important. Deborah, it has been a pleasure speaking with you today. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
No, just thank you, LaToya. Thank you for having me on your show. Thank you for your mission. I'm just so inspired by your mission. So, you know, let's all love ourselves and share love with those around us.
Well, thank you so much, Deborah. And those words are very beautiful and they resonate with me very much so. If anyone has missed any portion of this broadcast, it will be available for you on YouTube. It's also available on Facebook. And I'm also available on whatever podcast directory you choose, whether it's Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Speaking of Love is there for you to enjoy. So I appreciate all of you for being here. Deborah, I bow to your excellence. Thank you for being here on Speaking of Love. And I will see you all back here next Saturday at 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time for another interview about love. Thank you all so much for being here and have a great day, everyone.
Absolutely. Blessings, everyone.